The morning mist rolled across the silver waters of Kepler-4 for 2B's largest river system, casting everything in an ethereal glow. Marcus Chen pressed his boots into the muddy bank, checking the water quality sensors he'd placed the night before. 3 years of solitary work on this frontier world had taught him to appreciate the quiet moments before the colonial transport ships arrived. With their noise and chaos, his weathered hands moved efficiently across the digital readouts, logging data that would determine whether this section of the river was safe for the new settlement planned downstream. At 35, Marcus carried the steady composure of someone who'd seen enough conflict to value peace. The scar running along his jawline, a memento from the Titan Wars, had faded but never disappeared entirely. A soft sound drifted across the water, almost lost in the gentle lapping of waves against the reeds. Marcus paused, his enhanced hearing picking up what sounded like crying. He straightened, scanning the opposite bank through the morning haze there. Caught in a tangle of blue-green vegetation, something pale moved weakly against the current. Marcus waded in without hesitation, the cold water seeping through his survey suit as he pushed through the thick stalks. Toward the source of the sound, his breath caught. Nestled in a makeshift cradle of woven plant fibers was an infant unlike anything he'd ever seen. The child's skin held a subtle luminescence, soft patterns of light pulsing beneath the surface like a living constellation. Delicate features spoke of intelligence and grace. Tiny hands reached toward him with surprising strength. "What are you doing out here, little one?" Marcus whispered, carefully lifting the bundle. The baby's large dark eyes fixed on his face with an intensity that made him shiver. Whoever had placed this child in the river had meant for it to be found, but by whom? The infant's breathing was shallow but steady. Marcus wrapped his emergency thermal blanket around the small form and headed back toward his research station.
Racing through possibilities.
First contact protocols demanded immediate reporting to Colonial Command, but something held him back. The care with which the child had been prepared for the journey, the intricate patterns carved into the cradle's edges, spoke of love rather than abandonment. His station sat on a bluff overlooking the river, a compact prefab structure surrounded by monitoring equipment and communication arrays. Inside, Marcus activated the medical scanner and ran a full biological assessment. The readings were fascinating and troubling in equal measure. The child registered as humanoid, but with genetic markers unlike anything in the colonial database. As Marcus prepared a nutrient solution, the baby's hand brushed against his arm. Where skin met skin, he felt a strange warmth, as if the child was somehow reading him, understanding him in ways that transcended language. The sensation was intimate and slightly overwhelming. "You're not supposed to exist, are you?" he murmured, settling into the observation chair with the infant cradled against his chest. "Someone's going to come looking for you eventually outside." The wind picked up, carrying strange harmonics across the water. Marcus had lived on Kepler 442b long enough to recognize when something was different about the planet's usual sounds. Tonight felt like the beginning of something that would change everything he thought he knew about this world. The baby slept peacefully in his arms, the soft glow of its skin casting dancing shadows on the station walls. Marcus found himself studying every detail of the tiny face. Already feeling a protective instinct he hadn't experienced since losing his squad on Titan. Whatever came next, he wouldn't let harm come to this mysterious child. Unexpected visitors. 2 days passed in careful routine. Marcus monitored the infant's vital signs, adjusted the environmental controls, and tried to ignore the growing certainty that he was falling in love with the small being in his care. The child, whom he'd begun calling Stella for the star-like patterns on her skin, seemed to thrive under his attention. The soft chime of his perimeter sensors broke the peaceful silence. Of the third evening, Marcus set Stella in her improvised crib and moved to the security display, expecting to see one of the automated cargo drones that occasionally passed through his sector. Instead, 2 figures moved through the tall grass toward his station. Even in the fading light, he could see they weren't human. Their movements held a fluid grace that spoke of different evolutionary pressures, different worlds. Marcus felt his pulse quicken as old military instincts activated. He checked his sidearm but left it holstered. The figures approached openly, making no attempt at stealth. Whatever they wanted, they weren't planning an ambush. The first knock came as a gentle tap against the station's main hatch. Marcus activated the external speaker. "Identify yourselves, please," a voice responded, melodic and heavily accented. "We search for lost child. We mean no harm to you or to her." Marcus's chest tightened. Somehow, he'd known this moment would come. He opened the hatch to find two alien women standing in the threshold, both clearly exhausted from travel. The taller one, who'd spoken, had skin that held the same subtle luminescence as Stella's, though dimmed by fatigue and stress. Her companion was smaller, more compact, with fierce eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of his station's interior. "I am Zara," the first woman said, her voice carrying a musical quality that made Marcus want to keep listening. "This is my sister, Nyx. We have traveled far to find what was taken from us." Double quotes. Marcus stepped aside, allowing them entry. "The child you're looking for? She's safe." Zara's relief was palpable, her shoulders sagging as if a massive weight had been lifted. Nyx remained alert, protective, but some of the tension left her posture as well. "She is truly well?" Zara asked, moving toward the soft sounds coming from the crib area. "Healthy and growing stronger each day," Marcus replied,
Watching.
as Zara knelt beside Stella's makeshift bed. The reunion was immediate and profound. Stella's glow brightened as her mother lifted her, and Zara's own luminescence responded in kind, creating a gentle light show that filled the station with warmth. Nyx studied Marcus with calculating eyes. "You could have reported finding her to your authorities. Why did you not?" "Because she didn't need authorities. She needed someone to care for her," Marcus answered simply. "And because something told me her story was more complicated than a simple abandonment." Zara looked up from Stella, tears tracking down her cheeks. "Our people. They feared her difference. Said she carried dangerous gifts that would bring chaos to our community. When the council ordered her to be ... removed, Nyx and I took her and fled. You put her in the river, hoping someone would find her," Marcus concluded. "Hoping someone with compassion would find her." Nyx corrected. "We followed at distance, ready to take her back if she fell into cruel hands." Marcus felt something shift in his chest as Zara's grateful eyes met his. There was an intelligence there, a depth of feeling that transcended species barriers. When she smiled, he found himself smiling back, feeling a connection that surprised him with its intensity. "You have given us everything," Zara said softly. "How can we repay such kindness?" "By staying," Marcus heard himself say. "All of you. This place is isolated enough to keep Stella safe while she grows." And ... Double quotes. Meeting Zara's gaze, "I'd like to learn more about her gifts." "About both of you?" Nyx raised an eyebrow, clearly picking up on the undercurrents in the room. But Zara's luminescence brightened again, and Marcus felt warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the stations. "Environmental controls. If you will have us," Zara whispered. "We would be honored to stay," as the three adults worked together to prepare sleeping arrangements. Marcus caught himself watching the graceful way Zara moved, the gentle sounds she made while comforting Stella. For the first time since arriving on Kepler 44b, his isolated station felt like it might become something more, a home. The following weeks fell into a rhythm that surprised Marcus with its naturalness. Zara proved to have an intuitive understanding of the station's systems, her people's technology apparently sharing some fundamental principles with human engineering. Nyx took on the role of guardian and scout, venturing out each day to ensure they remained undetected while gathering edible plants from the surrounding wilderness. Stella thrived under her mother's care, her bioluminescent patterns becoming more complex and beautiful each day. Marcus found himself studying the child's development with scientific fascination and growing paternal affection. When Stella reached for him with tiny hands, babbling in sounds that seemed almost musical, he felt his heart expand in ways he'd thought impossible after the losses he'd endured in the war. "She likes you," Zara observed one evening, as Marcus walked Stella around the station's main room, the child's glow brightening whenever he spoke to her. "The feeling's mutual," Marcus replied, gently bouncing Stella in his arms. She's remarkable, Zara. The way she responds to emotion, the patterns her skin makes when she's happy or curious. It's like she's communicating on levels we barely understand. Zara moved closer, her own luminescence responding to Stella's contentment. My people believe children like her are bridges between worlds, between ways of thinking. That is why they feared her, and why they were fools to cast her out. Marcus said firmly. The intensity of his conviction seemed to touch something in Zara. She reached out, her fingers brushing his as they both supported Stella. The contact sent a warm pulse up Marcus's arm, and he saw Zara's eyes widen with surprise. You felt that too, she whispered. Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. The attraction he'd been fighting since her arrival was clearly mutual, complicated by the intimate circumstances of their shared guardianship, but undeniably real. Nyx chose that moment to return from her scouting, taking in the scene with a knowing look. If you two are finished making eyes at each other, we need to discuss our long-term situation. Zara stepped back, her luminescence flickering with what Marcus was learning to recognize as embarrassment. What did you find? Signs that we're not as alone as we thought, Nyx replied grimly. There are at least 3 different groups searching the river system. 2 human survey teams and something else. Something that doesn't belong to either of our species. Marcus felt his protective instincts sharpen. How close? Closest human team is maybe 2 days downstream. The others... Nyx shrugged. Harder to track, but they're moving methodically, checking every settlement and outpost that night after Stella had been settled for sleep. Marcus found Zara standing on the station's observation deck, staring out at the star-filled sky. The planet's twin moons cast silver light across the water, creating a scene of ethereal beauty that seemed to enhance her already luminous presence. Having second thoughts about staying? Marcus asked, joining her at the railing. About staying? No. Zara turned to face him, moonlight playing across her features. About putting you in danger because of our presence? Every moment. Marcus stepped closer, drawn by the vulnerability in her voice. I've been in danger most of my life, Zara. This is the first time it's felt like something worth protecting was at stake. She looked up at him, her luminescence brightening in response to his proximity. Marcus, ... double quotes, he cupped her face gently, marveling at the warmth of her skin and the way her patterns seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Tell me this isn't just gratitude. It's not, she whispered, leaning into his touch. It's not gratitude at all. When their lips met, Marcus felt the same electric connection he'd experienced when their hands touched, but magnified tenfold. Zara's luminescence flared, and he could have sworn he felt her emotions mixing with his own. Creating something deeper than physical attraction, they broke apart reluctantly. Both breathing heavily. We should go inside, Zara said softly. Nyx will worry. But she made no move to leave, and neither did Marcus. Instead, he pulled her closer, feeling her settle against his chest as they stood together under the alien stars. In the distance, Stella's soft breathing provided a gentle soundtrack to the moment, a reminder of the precious life they were both committed to protecting. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Marcus knew they would face them together. The attack came at dawn. Marcus jerked awake to Nyx's urgent shaking, her usually composed features tight with alarm. They found us. We have minutes, maybe less, through the station's viewports. Marcus could see lights moving through the grassland in a coordinated search pattern. Too organized to be human survey teams. Too methodical to be anything but hunters. Zara, he called softly, not wanting to frighten Stella but needing everyone alert and ready. Zara appeared from the sleeping area, Stella pressed close to her chest. Her own luminescence dimmed to almost nothing. How many? Marcus asked, already moving to gather essential supplies. 6 that I counted, Nyx replied, shouldering an emergency pack. They're using some kind of tracking technology that locks onto biosignatures. Staying here means capture. Marcus made rapid calculations. His station's emergency protocols included a safe room, but it wouldn't hold against determined searchers for long. Flight was their only option. There's a cave system about 3 kilometers upstream, he said, like sealing data cores into waterproof containers, natural barriers that should interfere with their scanners. They moved as a unit through the station's rear exit, Marcus leading them along a route he'd mapped during his first months on Kepler-4 for 2B. Behind them, lights converged on the station, and Marcus felt a pang at leaving behind 3 years of careful work. The journey to the caves was treacherous in the pre-dawn, made more difficult by the need to carry Stella and avoid leaving tracks. Zara moved with surprising stealth for someone burdened with an infant, her luminescence completely suppressed. Nyx ranged ahead and behind, shadow among shadows. They reached the cave entrance just as the first morning light began to brighten the sky. Marcus activated a portable barrier field across the opening, creating the illusion of solid rock from the outside while allowing them to monitor the area beyond inside the cavern. They huddled together around a small heating unit, Stella mercifully remaining quiet despite the upheaval. Zara's hands shook as she fed the child, exhaustion and stress taking their toll. "Who are they?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice low. Nyx's expression was grim. "Bounty hunters, most likely. My people sometimes hire outsiders when they want to avoid direct involvement in unpleasant tasks. They want Stella back. They want Stella gone," Zara corrected, her voice hollow. "Permanently. The council has decided she represents too great a risk to ignore." Marcus felt rage build in his chest, cold and focused. These people had thrown away something precious and were now hunting a child out of fear and ignorance. Everything in his military training urged him to go on the offensive, to strike first and eliminate the threat. But Stella chose that moment to reach for him, her tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb with trusting strength. The responsibility of protecting her, of protecting both Zara and Nyx, outweighed his desire for action. "We wait them out," he decided. "Let them search the area and move on. Then we figure out our next step." The day passed slowly. Through their monitoring equipment, they watched the hunters methodically search every structure and hiding place in a 5-kilometer radius. Their coordination was professional, their equipment advanced. These weren't casual trackers, but specialists in their field. As evening approached, Zara joined Marcus at the cave mouth while Nyx watched Stella sleep. The proximity of the hunt had drawn them closer together, shared danger intensifying the connection that had been building between them. "I'm sorry we brought this to you," Zara whispered, her hand finding his in the darkness. "I'm not," Marcus replied firmly. "Everything important in my life started when I found Stella by the river." Zara's luminescence flickered softly, barely visible in the cave's depths. "Even if it costs you everything you've built here?" Marcus turned to face her fully, seeing the fear and self-doubt in her eyes. "Zara, what I built here was isolation and routine. What we have now, this is worth fighting for." She moved into his arms then, seeking comfort and offering it in return. When their lips met this time, there was desperation mixed with passion. The knowledge that their time might be limited, making every moment more precious, they made love quietly in the cave's depths. Surrounded by alien stone and the soft sounds of Stella's breathing, Marcus marveled at the way Zara's skin seemed to glow brighter with each touch, the way her patterns shifted and danced in response to pleasure. She was beautiful beyond anything he'd imagined possible, and she was choosing to trust him with her body and her heart. Afterward, they lay entwined on the thermal blankets, Zara's head on his chest, her luminescence now a steady, warm glow that seemed to pulse in rhythm with their joined breathing. "Whatever happens next," she whispered against his skin, "I want you to know that these weeks with you have been the happiest of my life." Marcus tightened his arms around her, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "They're just the beginning, Zara. I promise you that." Outside their cave, the hunters continued their methodical search, unaware that their quarry lay hidden just meters away, bound together by love and determination that would prove stronger than any weapon. The hunters departed at first light, their search pattern taking them farther upstream. Marcus, Zara, and Nyx waited another full day before venturing out, using the time to plan their next move. Returning to the station was impossible. Even if the hunters moved on, colonial authorities would eventually investigate the abandoned facility. "There's Old terraforming station about 50 kilometers north, Marcus explained, sketching the route on his tablet. It was decommissioned years ago, but the basic infrastructure should still be intact. Remote enough to avoid casual detection? Nick studied the map critically. Defensible position? Better than staying in caves, Marcus replied. And Stella needs stable conditions for proper development. The journey took 3 days of careful travel, avoiding established routes and settlements. Stella seemed to sense the importance of remaining quiet, sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms for hours at a time. Her bioluminescent patterns had grown more complex during their weeks together, and Marcus noticed she responded differently to each of them. As if learning their emotional signatures, the terraforming station proved to be in better condition than expected. Solar collectors still functioned, providing enough power for basic life support. The main habitat dome was intact, offering protection from the elements and space for Stella to eventually explore and play. As they settled into their new home, Marcus found himself marveling at how naturally they functioned as a family unit. Zara's gentle wisdom balanced Nyx's protective intensity, while Stella served as a bridge between them all, her innocent joy bringing out the best in everyone around her. Weeks passed in peaceful routine. Marcus taught Zara more about human technology, while learning about her people's bio-integrated systems. Nyx proved surprisingly adept at growing food in the station's hydroponic gardens, her warrior skills adapting easily to the challenges of sustainable living. It was Stella who alerted them to the approaching ship. Her patterns suddenly shifted to deep blues and purples, colors they'd never seen before. She became agitated, reaching toward the sky with obvious distress. "She senses them coming," Zara said, lifting Stella protectively through the dome's transparent sections. They could see lights descending through the atmosphere. Not the crude vessels of bounty hunters, but something sleek and advanced. "My people," Nyx confirmed grimly. "A diplomatic ship." Marcus felt his muscles tense, old reflexes preparing for conflict. But Zara placed a calming hand on his arm. "Let me speak with them first," she said. "Things may have changed." The ship landed gracefully outside the station. 3 figures emerged, tall and luminous like Zara, but with an air of authority that marked them as leaders. To Marcus's surprise, Stella's distressed patterns shifted to curious gold as the delegation approached. The Astal conversation took place in the station's main area, with Marcus and Nyx flanking Zara as she held Stella. The lead diplomat, an elderly female with intricate light patterns covering her arms and face, spoke in Zara's musical language for several minutes before switching to accented human standard. "The child's abilities have manifested beyond what our seers predicted," she said. Studying Stella with obvious awe, she has formed unprecedented bonds with both human and Kavani consciousness. "This was not foreseen. Does that make her more dangerous, or less?" Marcus asked directly. The diplomat's luminescence shifted thoughtfully. "It makes her invaluable. We have monitored the harmony of emotions in this place. The way she has brought peace between species that should be incompatible. Perhaps our council was hasty in their judgment." Zara's grip on Stella tightened. "What are you proposing?" "Return with us. Not as exiles, but as teachers. Help us understand what your child represents for the future of both our peoples." Marcus felt his heart sink, but he forced himself to consider the offer objectively. Stella would be safer among Zara's people, with access to knowledge about her developing abilities. Zara and Nyx could resume their lives without constant fear of pursuit, but before he could voice his thoughts, Zara spoke firmly. "Our place is here. Stella was found by Marcus, accepted by him, when our own people rejected her. This is her home now, and ours as well." The diplomat looked surprised, then turned her attention to Marcus. "And you, human? Do you understand what you are choosing? A life of constant vigilance, raising a child whose powers will only grow stronger?" Marcus looked down at Stella, who had reached for him with both tiny hands, her patterns bright with joy at his proximity. "I understand that I love her, and I love her mother. Everything else we'll figure out together." Nyx stepped forward with a slight smile. "Besides, someone needs to teach the little one how to defend herself when she's older." The diplomatic delegation exchanged glances. Their patterns shifting through colors, Marcus was beginning to recognize as amusement and approval. "Very well," the lead diplomat said finally. "We will inform our council that the child is well cared for and poses no threat to our people. In return, we ask that you maintain the peace she has brought to this place." As the ship departed, Marcus stood with his chosen family on the observation deck, watching the lights disappear into the star-filled sky. Stella babbled contentedly in Zara's arms, her patterns now a warm golden glow that seemed to encompass all of them in its radiance. "No regrets?" Zara asked softly, leaning against his shoulder. Marcus wrapped his arms around both her and Stella, with Nyx moving to stand beside them. "Only that it took finding a baby in a river to realize what I'd been missing. In the distance, Kepler-44, to be single quotes as twin moons, rose over the water, casting silver light across their new home. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, bound by love that transcended species and strengthened by the remarkable child who had brought them all together. The future stretched before them, full of infinite possibilities,